What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Alexander Volkanovski fires back at Joe Rogan. Recently, longtime UFC commentator Joe Rogan revealed on an episode of his Joe Rogan Experience podcast with Max Holloway that he's heard Ilia Topuria turned down an Alexander Volkanovski rematch at UFC 305 in August. According to the former featherweight kingpin, however, he was never offered a fight against Topuria for the August card. As Volkanovski explained in an interview with Fox Sports Australia, he's looking to return later in the year rather than at the end of the summer, and he isn't sure where Joe Rogan is getting his information.
So he was even getting asked questions about it. So he did an interview. I reckon that's where Joe Rogan got this. Whether he got inside information, I don't know. Where he was like, why would I go to enemy territory and fight someone, I'm the champ, and he was saying things like that. So whether that's what Joe Rogan was going off, or he's got inside information, but nothing was ever brought to me as in we want to fight, because I've been talking to UFC and I've made it clear that I want to fight later in the year and give myself a bit of a break.
With Volkanovski removing himself from the title picture, the expectation is that Topuria and Max Holloway will collide later this year in a title fight to determine who Volkanovski faces when he's ready to return to action. Next up, let's take a look at UFC fighter sends a threat to Israel Adesanya. Despite Manel Kape and Israel Adesanya competing in different weight classes, the two have had some on-again, off-again beef for quite some time now. After last Stylbender's teammate Kai Kara-France was forced out of his scheduled UFC 293 bout with Kape, Adesanya and Starboy got into a spat at the UFC 293 press conference. While the beef was then reportedly squashed, Kape indicated during a recent episode of the Jackson podcast that he has no problem settling things with Adesanya in the streets, if need be.
I'm undefeated in the streets, bro. I don't give a I beat already many guys of this. I don't give a Putting him in front of me in the streets, and we're gonna say he's everything in the streets. MMA. It's pretty good. I'm pretty good too, brother.
As Kape indicated, Adesanya apologized for how things played out at the UFC 293 press conference. However, despite that, his beef with Kai Kara-France seems to be alive and well. Unfortunately for fight fans, the bout has yet to come to fruition, with Kai struggling with injuries that have kept him out of the octagon. On the flip side, Kape was recently forced out of his UFC Fight Night 241 bout against Mateusz Nicolau and has yet to book another fight. Next up, let's take a look at Max Holloway and Ilia Topuria go back and forth. Max Holloway has seemingly had enough of Ilia Topuria's demands regarding their potential featherweight title fight, with the champ indicating that he's only interested in fighting Holloway if the BMF title is on the line. Many have wondered whether the booking will come to fruition. Recently, in a post on social media, Topuria indicated that he had not turned down a rematch with Alexander Volkanovski and was looking forward to becoming the first man to knock out Max Holloway, writing, "I never turned down the rematch with Alex as the UFC has never offered me this fight. As I've said many times before, I will be the first one to knock out Holloway. Let's keep this simple. Do you want to fight? If the answer is yes, there's nothing more to discuss. Bring my belt and your pillow." In response, Holloway fired back, writing, "Bro, you're the one making this hard. Enough already, LOL. I'll bring your belt. The bitching mother effer. All you're doing is putting words together now. You're spiraling." Topuria then responded, indicating that Holloway would go down as the 16th name to be added to his professional record, posting 16 roses along with the hashtag #Sweet16. So far, despite the latest indication that the two will in fact throw down next, there's been no word from the UFC as to when a fight could potentially take place. Next, let's take a look at Sean Strickland details altercation. Former middleweight champion Sean Strickland recently found himself once again dealing with an unexpected incident outside of his house. Video footage from a camera shows several individuals approaching the former champ's house in the middle of the night, before then ding-dong ditching him and running away. The incident, of course, comes on the heels of another incident outside of Strickland's house back in November that saw the former champ hold a trespasser at gunpoint. Regarding the latest incident, Strickland posted footage of the situation on Instagram along with a caption explaining what happened further, writing, "It's 1 a.m. and I get a ring alert. Car pulls you and some guys jump out and go to the side of my house. In the process of covering my white I hear a bang, LOL. You guys have a car. It's Friday night. Why aren't you out trying to get pee? Kids these days. All the wrong priorities. Didn't see the doorbell alert till after. Just so you all know. I get crazy stuff sent to my house, LOL." Fortunately for the youths, this situation didn't result in the former champ holding anyone at gunpoint until the police arrived, like the 2023 incident. Now, let's shift gears and take a look at UFC fight updates. Ahead of this weekend's UFC 301 card, let's take a look at today's fight updates, starting with a big change to the UFC 302 card. According to Young Sung Park himself, he has suffered an injury in training, and as a result, he's been replaced by undefeated newcomer Niamjargal Tumendemberel. Tumendemberol will be fighting Andre Lima, who is undefeated himself and fresh off a controversial victory over Igor Severino that saw Severino bite Lima in a shocking turn of events back in March. As the Spinning Back Fist podcast account wrote, Bruce Buffer already working overtime on pronouncing that name. On the heels of the news, Hyung-Sung Park took to social media to give fans an update on the situation, sharing footage of the injury while writing in Korean. During the sparring preparation for this UFC 302, I collided with a colleague I trained with from an invisible angle because of the wind. My knee was pushed too much inward and the internal ligament of my right knee ruptured, so I was unable to get out for this UFC 302. Sorry to everyone who helped this match. Shifting gears and looking ahead at the UFC Vegas 93 card on June 15th, reports have indicated that Lucas Almeida will be fighting Timmy Kawamba in a featherweight bout that will see Almeida look to snap a two-fight skid that most recently saw him drop back-to-back finishes in 2023. On the flip side, Kawamba will be looking to bounce back from a February loss in his UFC debut to Bolaji Oki via split decision. The following month on July 20th, Kurt Holloway will fight Kainan Kushevsky in a pivotal bout that will see Holloway look to bounce back from a loss to Trey Ogden in March after winning the Tough 31 lightweight tournament in August. On the flip side, Kushevsky will be looking to bounce back from a loss in his UFC debut back in November that saw him finished by Elvis Brenner in the first round. Next, let's take a look at Robert Whittaker sends a warning to Jiri Prochazka. While there's been quite a bit of talk surrounding light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira potentially making the jump up to heavyweight, former champion Jiri Prochazka indicated that rather than following in the champ's footsteps and making the move up to heavyweight himself, he would be more interested in dropping down to middleweight. The comments caught many by surprise, with fans wondering whether or not the decision to cut another 20 pounds to make the 185-pound limit would be a wise decision for Prochazka. The way former middleweight champion Robert Whittaker sees things, not only does a cut to 185 seem highly unlikely, it would also make the two natural enemies. As he explained on a recent episode of his MMA Arcade podcast,
I hope he doesn't. I really hope he doesn't. I like the guy a lot, but if he enters the middleweight division, then we're enemies. Yeah. That's just the nature of the game. They're all enemies, except for my teammates. I've seen him in real life. I've been up with him, and I've been up close with him. And he's big, dude. And it's not just like he's physical. Like he's got a big frame. He's got wide shoulders. He's quite tall. I think he's 6'4". Like he's a big guy. I think he has the mentality to get to 84 kilos. Don't get me wrong, dude. If he wants to get to 84, he'll do it. Whether or not it'll be a good move, it's hard to say. It's hard to say.
Of course, following Prochazka's UFC 300 victory over Alexander Rakic, the former champ finds himself in the mix for a crack at the title. While Magomed Ankalaev is expected to be next up at 205 pounds, Prochazka seems to be on the short list for a title fight in the future. And depending on negotiations for the Pereira and Ankalaev fight, he could even find himself next in line for a title shot. Next, let's take a look at Anthony Smith goes off on MMA community. Recently, former light heavyweight title challenger Anthony Lionheart Smith indicated that he believes with a few wins, he could wind up competing against Alex Pereira for the title, given the past beef between the two fighters. The comments sparked a number of reactions among the MMA community, with fans questioning why a fighter who is 2-3 in his last 5 would believe that a title shot is just a few wins away. Ahead of his upcoming UFC 301 fight with Vitor Petrino this weekend, Smith opened up on the situation, taking aim at fans for simply reading headlines and failing to separate his fighting career from his career as an analyst.
Some of it is the position I put myself in as being an analyst, right? So fans are stupid. Like they are. Like you guys write an article and they don't read the article. They just read the headline and they just make up the rest in their head. Like if they actually read it, almost everything I say makes a lot of sense. Every once in a while, maybe I have some crazy takes, but it's not that often. And honestly, me and my friends play a game. Like, what kind of crazy can I say to see what the fans will say? Like, then they just play into it. So it is what it is. But they can't separate me as an analyst and me as an athlete.
Currently, Smith is ranked 10th in the light heavyweight division, heading into his UFC 301 bout. While a victory over an unranked Vitor Petrino likely won't insert him into the title picture, by returning to the win column, Lionheart could not only begin his climb back up the light heavyweight ladder, but also set himself up for some fun rematches. Dustin Poirier reveals sad news after he said in a recent interview that with a win over Islam Makhachev, he could possibly retire from MMA. Although he did say that he feels he has some time left, he's still unsure of his next move. Here's what Dustin had to say.
It could be. I haven't made an official decision yet, but it could be. And I've said this over and over again. Like, I still have a lot of tread on the tires. I can beat these guys. I can beat these young guys. I just did it. You know, I still feel good. My body feels good, but it's just like, how much do I want to give to this sport? Because you don't ride for free. You know, I just want to be a father. You know, I missed my daughter's final cheer placement thing on Sunday. You know, that was a big deal to her. Other family went, and, you know, it sucked to be here and not be there live to watch it. You just miss out on a lot of stuff. And like I said, I have a whole nother life outside of fighting. So I've put in my time and earned my stripes and dedicated most of my adult life, you know, since I was 17 years old, to this sport. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't want to make any decisions just off of the way I'm feeling. You know, I need to go out there and fight. Like I said in Miami, I was kind of in the same spot. Let me see how I feel out there against this young guy. And I felt great. You know, I had fun. So we'll see.
Jon Jones breaks silence on allegations. Recently, MMA Guru posted a video exposing Jon Jones for allegedly being a homosexual in a 40-minute video posted on YouTube. Jon took to Twitter this morning to address allegations made by a fellow YouTuber in the MMA community. Jon posted a picture with his finger on his belly in a feminine pose, followed up with a post saying, "I get it, people. I'm a sexy mother." He then tweeted saying, "Crazy that we live in a world where influencers can persuade the minds of the boys on the internet. Literally some random loser with a microphone in his basement. People can just say anything they want these days. I find it fascinating." He then replied to a fan that claimed that he's gonna make another video on Jon, to which Jones replied with, "Bro, what a powerful position to be in. Someone mentions your name and maybe make a few more $100 or even $1,000 for themselves that year? I'm a blessed dude. All good things." Top comments. MMA fans aren't the most intelligent as a whole. Michael Chandler's giving these kids a life they would never have experienced otherwise. He's giving them a better life than anyone criticizing him could. Chandler just saved 2 kids from the adoption system. That's an honorable thing. Their real parents were not suited for the job. That's reality, people. Show him love. Like it or not, they're his kids and he can raise them how he likes. Why the F are people telling Chandler how to raise his kids? Like what? How can anyone take these fools seriously?